Welcome to this introductory video on Agility Trader. The Expert Advisor allows you to automate your own trading ideas, and I'm going to introduce you to a huge range of options that you've never seen before in an Expert Advisor. Feel free to pause this video at any stage if you need to look at any of the concepts that I'm talking about. There are a large range of management options which allow you to automate your own trading concepts. You're also able to trade support and resistance channels. A number of different types of orders are now introduced, including pending and straddle trades. And there are advanced money management techniques which we'll now discuss. Previously, there has not been too many concepts introduced through an Expert Advisor to basket trade, but we now have this built into the Expert Advisor itself. Wages can be based on equity or optionally equity and stop loss, and that simply means that if you have a low stop loss and you're using a certain percentage of your equity, your wager will increase with the lower stop loss. Wager increased by multiples with successive losing trades. Once again, that will be discussed in the PDF help file. Trailing stop loss, the ability to set stop loss to break even once you've achieved a certain pip value in profit. The ability to progressively decrease the stop loss percentage. And of course, another concept which is introduced, which is taking profit in stages throughout the trade. The signals that are catered for include the list here. It's quite a large list, and as I mentioned previously, if you want to pause the video to review them, do so. I will be discussing each one of these either in this video or in a later video when I discuss the set files. The structure of the Expert Advisor itself is divided into 4 sections. You have the buy entry, buy exit, sell entry and sell exit, and within each type of trade there are up to 5 conditions which can be specified. These conditions don't have to even be the same time frame, they can be a different time frame, and there are a number of connectors to join the conditions together. I'm going to bring up MT4 now, and we'll have a quick look at the Expert Advisor being placed on a chart. This is MT4 already running, and I'm going to select Agility Trader down on the bottom left in the terminal area, and we're going to drag that onto a chart. Now, when we drag it onto a chart, we have the list of inputs which will come up. If you don't see the list of inputs initially, you may see something like this. To change the list of inputs, you just accept the default values on this area and transfer over to the Inputs tab. Looking at the Inputs tab, it is quite logically arranged, even though there's over 450 inputs. They are in sections. The first section that we'll deal with is the money management section. After that, we get into the trades themselves. You've got a buy entry trade with up to 5 conditions for a buy entry trade. There's condition 1, and the last condition is here. So we move a little bit further down, we're onto the buy exit trade, similarly with the 5 conditions there, and coming on to sell entry trade, 5 conditions again, and finally the sell exit trade with the 5 conditions. Let's go back and have a look at the buy entry trade. Go on to condition 1. By default, no condition is active. So when you first load the Expert Advisor, providing you didn't have previous inputs, every condition will be read as a false value. Now, if you're using the Expert Advisor on a new chart and you want to start again with your selections, don't forget to press the reset button down on the right hand side, and that will simply set all the settings back to default, which, as I mentioned, includes no conditions being active. So we're going to make this one active. We double click on that condition and we'll change that to true. So condition number 1 will be active when we OK this Expert Advisor inputs. You'll notice the within XBars ago setting, leave that as the default at this stage, and what we're simply saying is that we're looking at a condition that happens at the close of the previous bar. The criteria, as we mentioned, we've got up to 34, I believe it is, criteria that we can select from. We're going to use, in this particular situation, RSI, and we need to set the parameters for RSI. There's only one parameter relevant for RSI, and that is the number of bars over which the reading is taken. We use the standard value of 14 bars, and we'll leave the other parameters vacant because we don't need them. We will come down to operator. A double click once again will create the drop down. Now, as a hint, if you have an underscore after the final part of the name, it means that there are choices which you'll need to double click to view. In this situation, we have greater than, less than, crosses above, crosses below, equal to, not equal to. We want crosses above, and we want it to cross above a particular value, and that particular RSI value we're looking for is the 30 value. So having set up the conditions for the RSI by entry trade, we're only using one condition at this stage. If we were to press OK, that becomes the set of values for use with this input. And you can see here the input panel, which optionally shows after you set up the EA, will give you a summary of what you've selected. You note that we only have one condition for buy entry and no conditions for sell entry, sell exit, and buy exit, I should say. By default, a stop loss value of 50 is set in this situation. So, and also a take profit value of 50. These are the default values. So simply what we're looking for here is to enter trades when the RSI 14 crosses above the 30 line, and to take a profit of 50 when it's reached, take a stop loss of 50. It's going to trail in steps of 5, and that are default values. I'm just going to load in a previously loaded example just to give you an idea of some other inputs for that. So we'll disable this particular, or rather remove this Expert Advisor. I'm going to drag that back on again, and we're going to load a set of inputs that I previously created. Now this particular set is called RSI, and if I click on OK, you'll see that we have a different set of criteria here. This one now has no stop loss value 0, take profit value 0, but it is trading on crosses of the 70 and 30 lines. So a buy exit will exit the buy entry trade when it moves back down through the 70, so it crosses below 70. And at that point, a sell entry trade will open, which will be closed when the RSI line crosses above 30. Now, it's worth noting at this stage that in the EA itself, the calculations for the exits are made before the entries. So in other words, if there is an existing trade that where the trade crosses up through the 30 line, it's a sell entry trade, it will cancel the sell entry, allowing you to institute a buy entry. So we have the sell exit cancelling the buy sell entry, and then the buy entry automatically trading. So this is just simply a continuous trading scenario where you open a buy entry trade above 30, which is cancelled when the RSI crosses down through the 70. Now, if all these inputs seem a little bit overwhelming for you, I do have a companion program which I'm now going to reference, which will put everything into a little bit clearer perspective. And this is the Agility Trader companion program, and if we look at it in summary, we've got 5 tabs across the top. We've got the Management tab, the Buy Entry tab, the Buy Exit tab, the Sell Entry tab, Sell Exit tab, and a summary of the inputs. If we go back to the Management tab, you can see that we have the general settings on the first sub-tab within Management. So we have the magic number message, the trading mode, the alert mode, the base currency type, an option to include it as part of a basket. Now, if we do include this particular expert advisor as part of a basket, the expert advisors in total will all close off when you either reach a stop loss level or a basket take profit level, and these basically are monitoring the total value of your equity. So if you have 3 or 4 expert advisors running, all with basket inclusion ticked, and you reach a overall stop loss or an overall take profit level, all the expert advisors will discontinue trading automatically. And that is all handled within the expert advisor simply by changing that to yes and changing the stop loss and the take profit to meaningful values. A bit further down we have the lot size. It defaults to being based on equity rather than a fixed lot size. If you highlight fixed lots, you will put in the fixed lot size there. If it's based on equity, it will simply be 2% of equity will represent the value of the trade. If we put it to based on equity and stop loss, with the lower stop losses, the size of the wager will increase. More of that in the PDF help file. Maximum slippage is self-explanatory. That is the amount that you will allow your requested trade to be traded at versus what the actual trade is placed at. A pip being 0.0001 of a cent for most of the currency pairs. For the Japanese pairs, it is 0.01 of a unit value, and I'm assuming a unit value is a cent. The straddle trade buffer is for straddle trades where, just say we have a news event coming up and we want to place a buy limit and a sell limit entries. That is the space from the current particular price that each trade will be activated. Wager increase multiple. It's a fairly controversial subject. It is discussed in the help file. It is not martingale, but it has similar principles to martingale in that you have the option to increase wages on successive losses. Inbuilt into the EA is a preset limit of 20%. In other words, you just can't keep on increasing because eventually you will lose, and that is the case with martingale, of course, that you can't win because eventually you'll go above your bank balance and you'll have a successive run of losses. But this is quite helpful, and incidentally, you don't have to increase the value on each bet increase. It can be 1.1. The setting of 1.5 will increase subject wages by 50%. Let's have a look at the settings for stop loss. The stop loss doesn't have to be a nominated value anymore. It can be on all these factors here, any of these factors here. The nominated value, of course, you can preset, but as I said, it can be calculated on particular factors that these indicators produce. Once again, the number of bars for calculation is simply for some of these others, like the average true range or resistance, Fibonacci. The number of bars for calculation does come in there. The stop loss buffer is simply to give you a setting which is a buffer above a resistance, above a support level, or a buffer below a resistance level. The set stop loss to break even is fairly self-explanatory. If you set it to 30, when you're 30 pips in profit, it will set the stop loss so that you don't lose on that trade. Decrease stop loss. At each step, where we have steps of 5 pips, it can decrease your stop loss. And you may care to decrease your stop loss by, for argument's sake, well, let's use an arbitrary figure, 10%. each time you have 5 pips movement in profit. Take profit tab. Once again, it doesn't have to be a particular value. It can be a number of other factors. And the bars for calculation, similarly as for a stop loss, I might add that if you're using high price or low price or close price, or for that matter open price, you can change that figure there to say 2 or 3, and it will look at the price a number of bars to the previous. Take profit buffer, same as for stop loss. I wanted to talk a little bit about this take profit stages. No longer do you have to take your take profit in one hit, that is when you've realized your full take profit value. You can now elect to take it in a number of stages. So if you were to set that at 4, you're going to take your take profit in 4 stages, and each stage is basically, in this stage, 25%, 50%, 75% at full take profit level. So you're taking a little bit off the table each time you reach a particular level. And if you look at the hint there, you'll see how this works. So at the time that you reach your full take profit pip value, you'll only have 1/4 of your wager remaining because you've progressively taken some off the table. Now we're on to the buy entry tab. Now these tabs are all very, very similar. The whole 4 of them are similar. You'll notice that on the buy entry, we have the first input is whether it's active or not. When you change that to yes, the color of the panel will change to red. The settings are exactly the same as on the expert advisor, and I repeat, you do not have to use this companion program. Now there is a very small charge of $20 if you want to use this particular program, but I do stress that it is not a requirement to use the companion program. The time frame, as I said, you've got a number of time frames you can reference. All your types of trades are laid out in a logical fashion. You've got your 4 parameters, a shift value. A shift value simply means that if you're going to reference the close 3 bars ago, the shift value will change from 0 to 3. I'm sorry, 0 to 2 for 3 bars ago, because we're always looking at the first bar by default. Your comparisons, once again, and you can use a nominated value, or you can use something else. For instance, we might have in this situation, let's use an example, the MACD main crossing below, the MACD signal, I should say, crossing below an MACD main. And there's an example of where we're not using a nominated value, we're using the signal line crossing below the main as a buy entry trade. You'll notice if we select condition 2, we have an additional panel showing which simply says how are we going to join that to condition 1, and you've got these 7 different options. Little note about these bracketed options. When you start using and or conditions and joining up to 5 conditions, you will have situations where you only want to reference, say, conditions 3 and 4 as a bracketed group, and that's where these conditions come in. So that will assist you in grouping some conditions together as opposed being separate to other conditions. Let's have a look at the last tab now. I do have this particular tab with the evaluation version, and you can see here that there is a button, enable read and write, and that will simply take you to a link through to PayPal where you can activate the writing and reading of the set files. You can see at the moment we only have 1 entry condition, and this is shown in a logical format. If I click on this to show set file format, you can see all the settings, 352 of them I believe, which are set, and they go in to create a particular set file. When you click on that button there, you'll have an input which pops up to name the set file, and of course all your conditions are saved, and you can just load that set file at the time that you activate the Expert Advisor. Once again, if we go back to logical format, you can see that the conditions are laid out in a logical fashion, hence the name. And if we activate condition 2, you'll get a similar description. And with this particular one, it's quite easy to read. And you can see the condition 1 is you've got the MACD signal crossing the signal line crossing the main signal line. If we go back to that, I didn't actually complete that. If we look at it here, we should be putting in some parameters on that condition 1. We should be putting in there the signal line, we should be putting the parameters. So put 12, 26, and 9. And similarly down here we need these 12, 26, and 9. These are all these parameters are all explained in the PDF help file. So we go back to the read-write inputs. You can see now that the inputs are correct and that would be interpreted. Down here we have the print window, which will simply print a copy of the window as it appears on the screen. And this particular input here will clear everything out, similar to the reset one on MT4. So if I click on clear here, you will see that basically the companion program restarts and everything is back to 0. If we look at the summary now, we have no inputs whatsoever. Look, that completes the introduction. There are a lot of concepts that we've covered, and I do hope that you do remember to stop the video at any stage to look at anything in detail. As I mentioned, the companion program, there is a small charge of $20. It is not required to run the Expert Advisor, but look, for the amount of information and ability to create your own types of Expert Advisors through your own ideas, it is well worth the money. And don't forget to look at a website called forex-strategies-revealed.com. There are simply a huge number of trading ideas. Now, all those trading ideas can be implemented through Agility Trader. So that completes the video. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to see your input on the Agility Trader thread on Forex Factory.